listening to Combat Sports UK.
Combat Sports UK.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner episode 2. This is the series where we look at the upcoming UFC fights and we get the best minds and coaches in the UK MMA game to break them down. Today, as same as last time, we're joined by James Doolan. James, I'm going to give you your flowers here. UFC 313, you picked the perfect prediction. You said Magomed Ankalaev was going to get a decision over Alex Pereira. You pretty much predicted the fight, exactly how it was going to go.
First time for everyone that. I should have actually bet on that one.
Hopefully you keep her that here and do something similar. UFC 314, it's fight week. We're going to be breaking down the main event, which has fan favourite Alexander Volkanovski trying to get back that featherweight title that he once held so dominantly. He's taking on Diego Lopes, who's on a 5-fight win streak in the featherweight division. Of course, Topuria stepping up to lightweight meant that this title is vacant. We've also got a wee bit of UK flavour in the co-main event. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett has his chance to break into the top 10 as he takes on another fan favourite in Michael Chandler. So we're going to be looking at them two fights today. We'll start off with the main event, James. I kind of want to stat out to you. I'm not sure if you've heard of the 35 curse before. UFC fighters that's fighting for a championship below welterweight are 2 and 30 in championship fights if they're over the age of 35. Is this bad news for Volk? How much do you think this could play into it?
That's the first time I've heard that. It's terrifying, actually.
Tyrone Woodley's the only one to do it, won twice.
It just shows you the young eat the old in this sport. It's what happens. But I think with Volkanovski, you're talking about something a wee bit different, but I make no secrets about Jose Aldo's like my favourite fighter, and I think he's probably 10 years past his prime, but he's still competing at a level now 10 years past his prime that kind of goes to show how great he was when he was in his prime. And I think the thing with me with Volkanovski is he was obviously arguably the best featherweight all time with the names on his resume and the performances and stuff like that. I think is he maybe, he's obviously over 35, I don't know if he's maybe like 36 or 37.
36 he is.
Yeah, so for me with this fight with Lopes, it's as great as he was in his prime and when he was on that run and stuff and the Holloway and the Aldo ones and stuff like that, is how much of that has he got left? Because I think if it doesn't need to be 100% Volkanovski that beat Holloway and Aldo to beat Lopes, I think. Although I do think Lopes is a very good fighter. It's just the big question with me, and I think it's probably the big question with most people is what has he got left after the knockouts with Islam and with Elia Topuria, which they were horrible knockouts. They were.
The fact that he's taken a year out, obviously ring rust starts to kick in, but do you kind of think a year for a knockout like that, if it was one of your fighters that went down in the same way, would you be encouraging as long as a year to kind of recover fully from that?
Yeah, I think so, man. I was having a conversation with another coach recently about one championship, and they've just had a Scottish fighter called Nico Carrillo get knocked out off the Nabil, and then Tawin Chai just got knocked out in Japan recently, and basically announced their next matches 5-6 weeks after they've been knocked out, and it's a bad idea. It's hard enough to come back from the knockouts, and I honestly don't believe Volkanovski will be the same just because of the nature of the two knockouts.
Is it a fear? Does it make you a bit more gun shy where you're not fighting to your normal self? Do you think it's like a complete mental thing, or does it do anything physically to you, do you think?
I think both. I think once that resistance is gone, I think it never comes back. You see it with some of the guys who are noted for having the best chins in the game. Tony Ferguson, who threw mad wars and then starts getting knocked out with Michael Chandler, who we're going to talk about later. Mark Hunt's always a big one. You've seen the shots he was taking as a younger man. Once that chin goes, it's not the same anymore. And then even with like Vanderlei and stuff like that, famous for that, the amount of punishment they can take. But once you get switched off clean like that, you're never going back to the same resistance that you had previously, I don't think.
It is an interesting one, and hopefully I'm a big Volkanovski fan. I hope he doesn't follow in this list that you've just mentioned. To the naked eye, both of these fighters, Lopes and Volkanovski, both their best weapons are their hands. They're both very good boxers. They can mix in a bit of grappling too, but primarily that is how they get the fights won. What kind of differences is there in their styles? Obviously they're both boxers, so the naked eye, the untrained eye might think that they're very similar fight styles, but what kind of key differences is there in their styles?
I think Volkanovski's a wee bit more subtle. He kicks better. He's very, very good leg kicker, Volkanovski. he'll switch stance a wee bit more fluidly, and there's always purpose when he switches stance. He uses it to manipulate distance quite well, whether he's switching forward or back, and they use it to interrupt rhythm and stuff like that as well. And I don't think he gets the credit for the work he does with the leg kicks. He done very well against Holloway and Aldo, and Aldo's obviously regarded as one of the best leg kickers in the game, but he kind of matched him for that, and he used his kicks to set his punches up, whereas he hasn't got as much a kicking game. I think he kicks pretty hard and stuff. He's a bit more sporadic with his kicking. His stance isn't really set up for kicking the way that Volkanovski's is. I do probably think Lopes is a better combination puncher. I think he probably hits a wee bit harder at this stage as well. And he goes to the body pretty well, Lopes as well, which is something that Volkanovski didn't do as well. So there is some similarities. They're both happy to strike for 15 or 25 minutes and very, very competent at it. But there's some little subtle shot selections and uses of other phases of striking other than boxing that both of them probably imply.
Looking at it as a Volk fan, as I was looking into sort of this episode of Coach's Corner, I was thinking, how would I game plan for Volk? And I was thinking, looking at Lopes' last couple of fights, Dan Ige and Ortega in the Sphere, he's looked really good in the early rounds, but his gas tank doesn't seem to be there in the latter rounds. Do you think it would be a good idea? This here's what I was thinking anyway, you can rate this or not. Do you think it would be a good idea for Volkanovski to maybe grapple in them early rounds? Of course, it's a 5-round fight. Grapple and sort of see them rounds out where Lopes is most dangerous, because Lopes was a good grappler sort of pre-UFC. He's still good now, but he was getting more submission finishes. And I think based on Volkanovski's performance, even against Yair Rodriguez, this is what he done, a very dangerous striker. He took him down, sort of seen out the first couple of rounds where he was most dangerous and then cruised the decision win. Do you think that would be an option here for Volkanovski? Would that be the smart way of fighting this fight?
I think so. I think there's obviously the element of getting him tired. Like, if I agree with you, I think Lopes' style is not the most energy efficient. He's so powerful and throws that the amount of shots and the intent he throws in them means you can't sustain that for 25 minutes. It's hard to do it for 15, and you have seen him fading once he gets past like the 8 or 9 minute mark. So if I was Volkanovski, I'd be thinking about that definitely. Just get him tired and then take over, because Volkanovski's notorious for not getting tired. He's been a distance multiple times with world class fighters. The other thing where I think the longer Volkanovski's in the fight, the more confident he'll get. He's bound to have niggling thoughts in the back of his head about the last 2 knockouts. They were both quick, and I think the longer he's got in the fight, his confidence starts to come back, and that makes him more dangerous. And then the flip side is obviously Lopes is getting tired, which makes him less dangerous. So there has to be like a psychological element where the best thing for Lopes to do in that fight is to come out and really try and hurt Volkanovski early, and just remember him, like, you've been knocked out and you've been hurt recently, but on the biggest stage in the world, and everybody's seen it. That's going to be sitting in Volkanovski's mind. So the sooner Lopes can have him thinking about that, the better it is for Lopes, and the longer that Volkanovski gets without that entering his mind, the better it is for him. So if he can get past the first round and a half, he'll settle into the fight, and he'll get his timing, and his eyes will be better, and most importantly, he'll be confident, and it'll also probably help him with that ring rust as well for the year out.
If you were Diego Lopes' coach in this situation, his first time inside the UFC going 5 rounds, you've seen how much he has faded in the 3rd round in a 3-round fight. Do you change his training at all? Because is it possible for him to get much fitter? Is it possible for his gas tank to get much better? Or would it be smarter to change his fighting style and, as you say, kind of throw less and put less into the punches in the early rounds? How would you kind of navigate that if you were his coach? So
you'd really done with the 5 rounds in mind. There definitely has to be an element where he's got to look at pacing himself a wee bit better. And whether that's he's doing less work or he's trying to find favourable positions and distances to operate during the round. There's multiple different ways to do it, but if he's smart, he will have definitely thought about that, because he knows himself that 25 minutes is different from 15. You also know that there's no the same urgency in a 15-minute fight. You need to clearly win 2 of the rounds, and then if you don't get stopped, you'll lose. So when we send guys into fights, well, at bare minimum, if you win 2 rounds and don't get stopped, you're going to win 29-28. Whereas with this, you can afford to lose 2 rounds, so you can afford to pace yourself a wee bit more there. But the interesting thing is, psychologically, it makes sense for him to come out and jump all over Volkanovski, Just get on him early, try and hurt him, and just see what he's got left with that resilience and resistance, and see how he copes with that pressure, maybe getting hurt early. So it's
obviously quite a risk doing that, but is it? Because obviously if he does that and it doesn't pay off, Volkanovski isn't out of there within 2 rounds, you're then looking at a long 3 rounds.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. It's when he decides to go. Is he going to decide to go early, try and pace it? And then if he does try and pace it, is he as effective as he is when he's been stopping everybody, when he's been winning fights in the UFC? So it's an interesting fight in terms of where both guys are at in their career, the style of them obviously, and even the personalities of them. You can tell. I don't think Lopes has got to try and pace himself. I don't think he knows how to.
You don't think he's got it in him? Nah,
he's got that aggressive style. Even when he's in grappling competition and stuff like that, he's just going for the kill all the time. I think it's the guy's nature. It makes him fun to watch. And if you can do it against Volkanovski, then it's a massive name to have on your record. But if it doesn't work, you've got a highly experienced guy who's used to going 25 minutes with the best fighters in the world, letting you get tired. And then when you get tired, it's not the same game anymore.
So I want you to give us the keys to win. It's the next section that we always do. Go for Lopes first, and then the keys to win for Volkanovski.
For Lopes, I think he needs to hurt Volkanovski early. He needs to punish maybe the body, try and slow him down his movement, and probably push him back. Just get him on the back foot, work him towards the cage, and then let his strikes go. And if it forces Volkanovski to wrestle, I actually think Lopes is better on the mat. He's dangerous on the mat as a grappler. You've seen him do stuff in MMA fights. Generally, MMA guys don't do, but high-level jiu-jitsu going off. So I think he needs to mix everything up, but he definitely needs to go forward. I think if it doesn't look like he's going to get him out of there by halfway through round 2, he need to change his style up and just look to stay ahead of him in terms of outpoint him with strikes and stuff like that. For Volkanovski, I think the exact opposite. I think he wants to just settle in the first round and a half, have a look a wee bit, let Lopes get himself tired, let him miss with the big shots and stuff like that, punish him sporadically to start with, and then chip away his legs with his leg kicks, get to the body maybe, and then even we were saying earlier, force him to grapple, just with the purpose of, I'm going to get you tired defending these attempts, or I'm going to get you tired having to wrestle back up, or I'm going to get you tired threatening chokes, just anything just to drain his energy a wee bit. And then he can start taking over the game a wee bit and just outpoint him on the feet, I think.
What a fight it's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. Time for the bit that everyone wants to hear, especially after your last one. Your coach's pick. Let's hear it for the main event.
I feel terrible with this, but I'm picking Lopes to win. Again, what I said at the start, if Volkanovski wins, it's no testament to how great he is right now. It's testament to how great he really was in his prime, because he's fell off physically, and with his resistance and stuff like that. And Lopes is a physically gifted, aggressive young challenger, talented as well, very, very skillful, and driven. And if Volkanovski can beat him, it's at this point in the stage, it's probably as big a win as any of the other wins he's ever had, just because of the factors. But I'm picking Lopes, and fortunately stop him.
I hope that doesn't happen.
So,
you done the same last time. I wanted Pierre to win, and you went against him. So I might have to back Lopes now that you've said that. You love going against the fan favourites.
It's even worse than that. I've got twin boys. They're 2 years old, and they're called Alex and Max, and they're named after.
Big fans of Taporia then.
They were born when Holloway and Volkanovski were having this trilogy of fights. My wife was pregnant, and she picked the name Alex and I picked my spit. Everybody's like it's for Volkanovski and Max Holloway. So hopefully Alex wins. Hopefully Volkanovski wins.
That's class. That's unreal. Looking at the co-main event, Paddy Pimblett against Michael Chandler. I want to ask you first, this is Paddy's chance to get inside the top 10. He's had a lot of hype around him, but Paddy's rise in the UFC has kind of been funny because it's not been smashing performance after smashing performance. As somebody scraped through, like the Jared Gordon fight, a lot of people don't even think that he won that one. But he's here, he's getting a shot inside the top 10, and he keeps winning. Michael Chandler has won one fight in his last 5, and that was against Tony Ferguson. Do you think this is a big step up, as everyone is saying, in competition for Paddy?
No, I don't. I think Chandler's 38 years old. He's won one fight in 5 years against the ghost of Tony Ferguson. Like, if somebody in Tony Ferguson's life should have told him that he was done, 3 or 4 fights before that.
He's still going with the GFL?
He's going to be the GFL champion. I think that in terms of name value, it's no comparison. Chandler's a big name. He's been involved in some of the best fights in the history of the division with Alvarez and stuff like that. He's not looked a elite level fighter since coming to the UFC. He's came to the UFC obviously past his best. He's had that period of waiting on Conor. We were on the card when he fought Oliveira last, and he still looks in great physical shape, but like I was cage side for that fight, and Oliveira was levels above him. Like he smashed him absolutely everywhere. I think he's opposite to Volkanovski, where we're saying Volkanovski's physically declined and he's still excellent. In the comment I made about Aldo, whereas Chandler I don't think was ever excellent. I think he was just physically very, very gifted. Yeah, and I think that's starting to go. And if you're not technically excellent when you've got that physicality always has to go. You're left with less physicality and not being that technically gifted, and I think that's what you're seeing with Chandler now. He's lunging in at shots, he's out of position, he's throwing himself off balance with stuff, he's shooting for too far out, even how he moves and stuff on the mat. He's just a guy that when he was in his prime, his physicality would have got him through a lot of stuff, and like everyone else, age takes that away.
I think you're 100% right. I do fully agree with you, because the media kind of narrative on this is that it's a huge step up for Paddy, but I think, as you say, I think all that's coming from name value. It's not the actual sort of fighting display that Michael Chandler's been putting on, because it hasn't been impressive at all over the past sort of 5 years since his UFC tenure. It's always exciting, which we are going to touch on in a minute. I listened to an interview with Paddy there during the week, or last week, and he says he kind of pretty much spoke about his game plan. He says he wants to keep Michael Chandler at range using kicking, try and frustrate him, and once Michael Chandler comes in, once he rushes in, he wants to catch him with that knockout blow, whether it's a knee or an uppercut on the way in, or whatever he can find. Paddy the Baddy striking is looked not bad at times. How would you kind of rate it? There's a lot of people say, and you can see it clear as day at times, that his chin's far too high up, and whenever he fights someone like Chandler who does have that big overhand right, he might get caught with it. What do you kind of think of Paddy's plan here to keep him at bay? And it seems like he's going to use a lot of striking instead of his jiu-jitsu, and how would you sort of rate his striking overall?
It's definitely no textbook. Do you know what I mean? It's not nice to look at, but it is very effective. Like, I think he hits stupid hard. He throws everyone trying to kill you to the point where his chin is coming up in there, and you see him at times almost throwing his two hands at the same time and stuff like that. I think his kicking's got a little bit better. He's got a hell of a chin, Paddy Pimblett. He's got a brilliant chin. It's underrated. I think he's one of the guys where when he was coming up, he's gravitated towards jiu-jitsu, and he's exceptionally good at that, and he's got away with not having to spend as much time with striking. I think he's an underrated wrestler. He shoots fast. He's got tricks on the fence and stuff like that. I think he's a very hard guy to prepare for. Like, you won't have anybody in your gym that moves like him, and then when they're in the gym, they're not going to throw as hard as what he throws it. So your first exposure to that is when he's standing across from you in the cage, and now he's coming for you, and he seems calm with the walkout and the music, and he's having a laugh, and
it just switches when he's, doesn't it?
He competes well, and he's also big for lightweight. He's a big dude. I know he gets a bit of stick for his waking up and stuff like that, but he's got a big frame as a lightweight. For standing next to him and Chandler, I think he's massive compared to Chandler. I think the idea that he catches Chandler in the way in is quite smart, because Chandler has to go forward. He has to go, and he's going to swing. So if he steps back and catches him on the ear, an uppercut or something, even a teep or something coming up the middle, Chandler's going to have to work his way through that. I think Paddy can cause him problems. He's, in terms of the question, when we had the Bivol fight there with the other Russian guy whose name I can't remember, Beterbiev, there was an article came out, and it was basically, could you take a screenshot for this fight with these two fighters? Any point during the 12 rounds, both of them are sitting perfect balance, perfect hand placement. Like, it can't get any better in terms of how people perceive technique to look. And Paddy's the opposite of that. And the good thing about MMA is it's not always a bad thing. It's, again, how do you prepare for that? And he's got the mentality to make that wild kind of striking work. If you try to teach him to work off a jab and move and pivot and stuff like that, and it wouldn't work for him. And the coaches at Next Gen are arguably one of the best gyms in Europe. Not arguably, they are. And they'll let Paddy do Paddy with striking, and it suits better. And I think Chandler and a lot of other guys look at him and underestimate him. You can see it when he fights. They're all on Twitter laughing. Look at his chin up in there. Look at this. And I'm like, he's still winning fights. And
They Drickus, didn't they? In the middleweight division, he was kind of similar, where he's so unorthodox. Other fighters are thinking, "Jeez, I could easily take him," but no one's figured out how to do it yet.
That's the thing. You're brought up on this this ideology that you have to have this perfect, beautiful technique, and it has to look a certain way for it to be effective. Fighting isn't like that. It's different in other sports, but fighting can be scrappy and it can be chaotic and stuff like that. Paddy Pimblett seems to thrive in chaos, whether it's fighting or he's in the stands at Anfield or whatever. Do you know what I mean? He's the type of boy, and he's been like that since he was a kid. Like, when he comes into a room, you're just like, you're going to be drawn to that energy and stuff like that. And I think Chandler's going to fucking struggle with him. I think he really will. I think it's the perfect opponent for Paddy to get into the top 10. I actually think in some ways when he fought Bobby Green would have been a harder fight than Chandler. But I think Chandler, the only way I can see Chandler win is to come out and catch Paddy very early, like a one bomb, just a big overhand right. And the last time he done that, I couldn't tell you. And again, Paddy is very, very tough. Even in Cage Warriors, he had fights where he was getting hit clean, combinations and stuff like that, and it doesn't look like he's hard to stop. He's got resistance. He's 30-year-old. He's super fit when he turns up to fight. I think he'll be able to keep that pace.
Just on Michael Chandler, I've been very interested to ask you this. If you were his coach, and Justin Gaethje kind of follows in the same sort of wavelength, but he's a lot more technical now than what Chandler is, do you let him be as, it's not... He goes in there, hasn't really got a fight style. It looks like he's not got much technique going on. It looks as if he's gone in with zero tactics. He's just going in. Don't get me wrong, that's why he's getting the fights in Madison Square Garden every year. That's why he's on these big cards, because he is so entertaining to watch. But at what stage does that become a bit, it's like, use your college wrestling, start maybe being a bit more patient and being a bit more technical. If you were his coach, would you try and wean that out of him a wee bit, or would you just let him run free the way he does?
I don't think you're going to see anything different out of him now. I think he's almost been in his final form since Bellator, like midway through, even when he was a champion. He's not doing anything different. He looks like the type of guy, even if you look at social media, he's one of the guys that instead of try to spend an hour fixing some little technical detail, he'd rather go and lift weights or do a circuit. You know what I mean? His idea is, I'm going to turn up as fit and strong as I possibly can and try hard. I don't think he likes to wrestle because he knows it's tiring. And then he's also probably one of the guys where, we've spoken about this before, where he's came for wrestling and then he's started knocking guys out at lower level, and they fall in love with that power. And people fall in love with the fighter for that power as well. Nobody likes it. And in combat sports, there's nothing more thrilling to watch than a knockout. But no submission matches it. No, even these back and forth fights are more for kind of connoisseurs. Like the general public want to see guys getting knocked stiff, flattened in their back. And Chandler's obviously done that a few times, and it becomes a problem. But when they just start relying on it, they think it can get them out of trouble and stuff like that. And again, I think he's not got the physicality to cover distance as much anymore. Probably generate as much power and stuff like that. And when he is trying to do that with Paddy's going to be catching him on the way in, I think.
Give us your keys to victory for both of these guys then, Paddy the Baddy and then Michael Chandler.
I think Paddy has to come out and move a lot, try and frustrate him, and get him swinging at him and making him miss. I think at some point Paddy will probably go forward and throw. He'll blitz in. He does this quite often, and he throws stuff in weird little rhythms. He'll box into knees and he'll chin elbow after knees and stuff like that. And I think Chandler will struggle to deal with that. Oliveira had a wee bit of success with that. I think if you're throwing, as a taller fighter, if he's kicking and kneeing, it'll cause Chandler problems, especially when he starts dipping down with the kind of hooks and the overhand and stuff like that. He's potentially running the risk of getting kicked in the head or knees really heavy in the body. So I think Paddy has to almost kind of create that chaos where he thrives, and put a pace on Chandler early. I think he definitely needs to mix stuff up. If Paddy gets to his back, I know he defended pretty well against Oliveira, but I think if Paddy gets to the back, it can cause him problems or even submit him there, because he won't expect it. And I think it's just almost like defusing a bomb. He just needs to get past the first couple of exchanges with Oliveira, trying to put that power on him, and then just be himself. I think if he starts messing with him and stuff like that, and again, it's going to make Chandler try harder and probably open him up a wee bit. So again, I think Paddy can shine if he doesn't get a finish there, I think he can beat him quite convincingly on points. I've seen him do 25 minutes before at Cage Warriors. I've seen him in I think it was in the Adnam and Ari and the Soren back fights at Cage Warriors where he wasn't getting his own way, but he was still causing the guys problems late in round 4 and 5. He's got that engine in him that I don't think he can match. He faded quite badly later with Oliveira, but I can see Paddy hurting him on the feet and then maybe jumping on a submission, which seems to be his MO. He's getting good at that.
Is that your official coach's pick? Paddy the Baddy submission?
I think so, man. I think so. I definitely pick Paddy to win. Chandler is tough. Like he survived a couple submission attempts with Oliveira. But I think Paddy can definitely sub him. I honestly think Chandler will underestimate him as well. He's probably thinking, I've just fought a former champion. Since he's came to the UFC, they've gave Chandler hard fights. He's probably thinking Paddy might not be at that level of competition he's faced, but he's also 38 years old. Paddy's 30-year-old I think he's won six fights in a row in the UFC, coming in confident. So I'm going to go Paddy to win. I think he wins pretty convincingly. Maybe have to survive a wee bit of a scare early or a couple moments that might be concerning for him, but again, he's hard to sit Paddy and he's hard to put away with strikes. So unless Michael Chandler wants to lie on him and blanket him for 5 rounds, and
can he do that?
He's not going to do that and avoid that guard. Paddy's got very good hips. I think the fight's there for Paddy to win.
I look forward to watching it. This is a smashing card, folks. The last couple of pay-per-views has been good at the top of the bill, but it sort of fell off. This card is brilliant the whole way through. There's many other fights we could have broke down. James, thank you very much for joining us. I'll be sticking my money on your picks because I didn't do it last time and I lost out, so I'll definitely be doing it this time. Thank you very much for tuning in to Coach's Corner and Combat Sports UK. I hope you enjoy the fights this weekend in Miami. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.